And our next guest runs a special purpose acquisition company, a SPAC, focused on private equity in China. They recently acquired Exceed, one of the largest sportswear companies in China, and took it public. So here to give us his outlook on the retail space and private equity in China is George Liu. He's chairman and managing director of 2020 Limited and special advisor to the chairman at Exceed Company. Before we get to your business here, sir, I do want to ask you, the president acknowledging the employment problem here in this country, talking about the need for the U.S. to get back to exporting goods. Given the line of business that you are in focusing on the consumer, what do you make of where we are in this recovery right now?
And one of the cases that we're looking at investing in companies is for the long run. And one thing we're observing right now is in China, the domestic demand is pretty much at the stage comparable to what we had in the United States in the 70s. So it's in a long track of growth for decades to come. And we anticipate that the Chinese demand will grow to probably as big as the United States, if not bigger. And I think there's going to be a great deal of companies is going to benefit from that trend. And the company that we invested is definitely going to be one of them. But there are many other companies could look in that as a fundamental opportunity, and including some of the brands in the United States, brands in Europe. They can re-energize their growth by focusing on how to explore opportunities in China successfully to build up the business.
Many economists would say, and they're hoping, some are betting, that the growth is going to come from China and hopefully spread here to the U.S. as well, so we get more of the same positive GDP numbers that we saw last week. But when we look at sales growth in China itself, it's still the weakest in 2 years on the retail sales front.
Well, the retail as a whole sector has been growing compounding at about 15% year over year. It was a brief interruption started from October last year, but it starting to get back on track after the New Year, and particularly after the Chinese New Year. When I go visit the countryside in China, smaller cities in China, you can't find a seat at the restaurants. It's the economy there is like nothing happened before.
You're here in the United States shopping right now. You're looking for brands to bring back to China, to sell there to Chinese consumers. What sells there right now? What are you looking for? We
actually looking for opportunities that would add to our business as well as re-energize our partners' business.
Is that purely luxury?
No, not luxury. It's really consumer brands in general.
Consumer brands in general. When we hear about demand in China on the consumer front, the emphasis seems to be on brands, recognized names, American icons, European icons. What's available right now?
That's what the U.S. is very good at, whether it's a movie or McDonald's or consumer brands in the apparel and shoes business. There is a lot of very recognizable brands that's generated in the United States over the last few decades, and many of them are struggling with because of the domestic consumption here, as well as in Europe, is not as strong as people would want it to be. But there's a lot of growth opportunities. Those brands has great brand equities in China already. They're well known. People love the product, and the people respect the long history that they had and want to participate in that. The consumer likes the American brand.
Now, in reading through a piece that one of my colleagues here at Bloomberg wrote up, Lauren Coleman-Lochner, in an interview with you, she highlighted the idea that you're looking for brands that can't be more than 2 syllables long. That's not something we hear very often here. That's key to the Chinese consumer?
That's a cultural issue. That's a cultural issue because in China, all the words in Chinese are single sound. So the Chinese can't really pronounce anything that's very long. And you have to be, for them to be able to remember the name easily if you want to build a popular consumer brand.
Right.
So many of the wonderful brands here, simply because the name doesn't sounds too complicated for the Chinese consumer, they have to be off our candidate list.
So linens and things, or in Europe, Escada, too long of a name.
Yeah, if you have more than
You're
two
not looking at
syllables,
those.
it's difficult for them to remember.
All right. Well, it's an interesting nugget to share with us. Thank you so much. Good luck with your acquisitions. We'd love to follow up with you when you do find those purchases.